Welcome back guys to another episode of Decentralized Chain. It's Faraz bringing you the latest news, reviews and blockchain tech. So today we are going to be reviewing NoizChain. Now NoizChain piqued my interest purely because it's related to the work that I do within my professional life, which is around helping clients implement digital platforms, digital solutions, and ultimately create a more personalized experience for consumers when they interact with brands. And NoizChain is no different. In fact, they're claiming to be the first and only decentralized ad network in the world, where participants can engage directly with brands through an AI cognitive ad system with online and mobile ads. So it is ultimately looking to be an AI plus blockchain solution for marketing. And before we really go into the actual crux of the problem that they're trying to resolve, it's important to kind of get a grasp of the actual business or segment area that they're actually looking to disrupt. And so let's actually understand what we mean by cognitive ad system. Now, when we talk about cognitive ad systems, there's three things that you need to take on board as a marketeer, and three things that a cognitive ad system will ultimately help drive in terms of brand awareness and pretty much you sticking with that brand throughout your lifetime. And so first and foremost, what we have is segmenting of audiences in new ways. So different ways that a brand can classify us. And so the key part in terms of providing relevant messaging to customers is being able to segment them. And so the idea here is that with cognitive marketing systems, what they do is they search massive data sets from a wide variety of sources, such as web analytics, social media, purchasing behavior, and ultimately what that does is that it finds customer segments which basically exhibit similar behavior. And so in some cases these segments may resemble the sort of traditional demographic groups, but in cognitive marketing what happens is that it looks for common behavioral characteristics among people who appear to be very different. And so what that means from a marketing perspective is that it ultimately helps transform that list into a database where each member ultimately is connected to others in many different ways. And so the result is that one customer will be part of countless segments depending on their observed behavior. So to kind of translate that into what that means in real terms or real world values, you could say that a woman aged 34, for example, would no longer be simply considered as a female who's within the age bracket of 30 to 35, but instead that individual could be seen as a fashion lover who takes 3 months to buy, travels to say LA twice a week, and tends to open her emails on a Thursday. So that's how granular you can get in terms of segmenting somebody, and you can kind of see how that personalization is already kicking in. And the idea is that if we didn't have cognitive marketing, then these sorts of segments would nearly be impossible to build. You'd have to stick with a more general segment, such as females aged between 30 and 34. So, and I mentioned personalization of content, so that's the second element here within the sort of cognitive space. We've got personalization, and so what that means is that by knowing the sort of behavioral traits, marketeers can use cognitive systems to ultimately personalize more content effectively than before. And so after receiving, say, core content, a cognitive marketing engine could ultimately redesign the messaging so that virtually everybody saw something different. And so the idea here is that the system can use data from social media, from the browsing behavior, from sentiment from customers who may have had a service communication call, and ultimately reformat that content for an individual. The idea is that the cognitive marketing element would ultimately ensure that that brand message was delivered in the right way at the right time for each and every single customer or individual. So say long form, engaging content could be sent when you know a customer is at home, and you could potentially send a much more shorter ad which would be easy to consume and would appear when they are commuting, for example, on their mobile phone. And so the idea here is that personalization would also ensure that brands basically avoid delivering irrelevant messages and ultimately risk tuning out me and you. Because, you know, how many times do we see on a regular day-to-day basis irrelevant ads that don't really apply to us? And then we just don't bother with some of the brands because we just see it as noise from them. And so, you know, the idea here is that these brands really, on a day-to-day basis, you know, certainly in my opinion, have, you know, less than 5 seconds to engage with me. Otherwise, I've lost interest. And so as you can see already, these two elements that we've spoken about kind of really feed into point 3, which is helping customers make better decisions. And so by delivering a personalized message at the right time, ultimately benefits the brand, not only for the reasons that we've already mentioned, but also the cognitive marketing element will also help customers make better decisions, because it can make inferences using data from a wide variety of sources. It can also help brands identify customers who have a particular unstated need. The idea is that we could end up getting personalized offers as well as guidance to go with it. So, you know, another example, if we try to realize the 3 points that we've spoken about, is, say for example, someone is price sensitive at the moment. They could be told about a lower price product range instead. Or if they are time poor, then the brand could let them know about a new convenience. And if they're, say, in the middle of a major life event, say we're moving houses or getting married, then the brand could offer to help them with that process. So this is kind of what we mean by cognitive marketing. It's the AI technology element behind that that helps to really infer more about us, and then in return give us more relevant information and content that we need. And so this way, this particular solution can certainly start helping companies start conversations with people like me and you around topics which matter to us, and not really about what they want us to see about themselves. But also at the same time, this way, as well as helping companies target us, it means that we actually get what we want and what we need, and ideally it makes it easier for us to choose a particular brand above all others. So as you can see, what we currently have today is a very faulty digital ad system, which ultimately hurts advertisers just as it does us. And really we're suffering from an inaccurate targeting of content. Now, if you was to put that into monetary values in terms of organizations that are wanting to really take on board these types of solutions, well, the wastage currently is reported in the region of around $16.5 billion US by fraudulent ad traffic. And additionally, this is just only going to increase as time goes on. So it's clear that the advertisers are throwing a significant amount of money away to ad bots. And so this is where NoizChain comes in terms of being the solution, because it is really a decentralized ad network powered by AI, and you know, it's going to solve the problems of digital ad fraud while providing a method for people to easily give back to communities. So Noiz will use AI to ultimately fight banner blindness and improve our customer engagement, while the blockchain element will ultimately provide transparency and trust between the advertisers, the customers, the publishers, and charitable foundations. Now let's try and understand a little bit more and look at the actual tech in terms of how all of this actually hangs together and what is the actual token value. So if you have a look as a whole, and we'll start with point 1, I've numbered each of the various components just to make it easier for you to follow through. So for example, if we start with Noiz, the actual platform, so that's number 1, then this is really acting as the middleman between the advisors and the publishers. So Noiz is also the name of the actual token, and really that's there to incentivize user engagement, and it's distributed amongst the advertisers, the publishers, and the charitable foundations, which will help make a social impact in addition to the users themselves. Now if we look at point 2, this is Nicola, and so we've been talking about cognitive ads all along throughout this whole entire review, and Nicola basically is the AI bot behind the cognitive ads. It's always collecting, authenticating, and sorting all that user data. It also uses a hybrid AI system, so one form of AI to filter out all the spam bot-like user actions. So this is kind of really fraud prevention and sort of fraud ads and helping the advertisers in that space. And the other is really to integrate with NLP technology, which is natural language processing. So that's for improved cognitive ads and conversations. So users can type in natural language and find what they're looking for and be connected with what they need to find as well. The third element here is advertisers. So advertisers here will basically pay a digital ad fee to receive the NOIZ tokens. And what you can see here actually is that the payment is coming in as fiat currency. And I always like to see that in a company because yes, you do have a token value, and the token is then used to exchange, trade on exchanges, etc., and transfer of value from one form to the other. But the other way that I also like to see is fiat also coming into the actual organization as a whole. That's improving liquidity, that's growing its cash reserves as well. So it kind of makes it a more profitable company as well. And really what happens here is that the tokens are bought, they're used to basically increase user engagement. The advertiser then has the option to offer out coupons as well. So that's kind of feeding back into the social impact element. And then ultimately when users redeem those coupons, the users' tokens will basically go to the charitable foundations. Now if we look at point 4, we've got the publishers. Then as we move on to point 4, we've got the publishers. And so publishers are basically media-rich sites with high traffic volume, and they receive the NOIZ tokens in exchange for their advertising space. And so publishers can then basically exchange, keep, donate, or use their tokens. And in the case of using them, publishers basically pay tokens to users in return for user data. And so that's how users are then incentivized in order to free up their personal data. And then publishers can also receive tokens from users in exchange for coupons on services such as subscription fees. So there's that element of connecting users together as well with the actual publishers. So there's a very nice benefit and closed loop environment here that I quite like as well, because it's keeping tokens within the ecosystem, it's bringing fiat into the actual organization, transferring it as into tokens, and then using those tokens as a way of actually engaging and interacting users directly with publishers as well. And then we have the users. So users are basically people like you and me who are viewing the cognitive ads on the publisher's sites. And we also then receive NOIZ tokens by engaging with those ads. So every piece of data or intent that we provide and send to the advertiser. So ultimately the users are who get to determine what personal information, age, gender, location is delivered to these advertisers and publishers, and then users can then exchange, keep, or redeem their tokens for providing that personal information. And then the one thing that I really like overall, and you know, it's quite rare because I haven't seen these many ICOs, is they've got point 6, which is the social impact. And this is what we refer to as the actual charitable foundation. And so here, advertisers, publishers, and users can all directly donate to charitable foundations of their choosing. So ultimately, when users redeem coupons, their tokens will go to those foundations rather than back to the advertisers or publishers. And that is basically the actual overall platform itself. Now, in terms of seeing exactly how long it's going to take to deliver all of these elements, let's jump in and have a look at the roadmap. The roadmap, what we can certainly see is that it's going to be roughly about an 18-month project to actually get the entirety of the platform end to end. But a couple of key dates to pull out just to kind of show progress along the way will be, first of all, we've got the private sale currently ongoing at this point, followed by the actual crowd sale, which is estimated around the middle of June. And then we've actually got the platform releases, because this is where we're going to need to see the actual value in the platform. We need to be able to see releases to see progress against our milestones. And so if we start with Q4 of this year, this is where the NOIZ version 0.1 will be released. And currently this is being developed and ultimately will be released towards the end of this year. And in this phase of the platform, the release will basically allow select advertisers to be able to create cognitive banner ads on the permissioned blockchain. And then followed by that, we will have NOIZ version 1.0, which will basically release towards the first quarter of 2019. And this version will basically allow select advertisers and publishers to sign up and begin interacting with the ad exchange. And so advertisers will basically be able to create cognitive banner ads. Publishers will also be able to incorporate NOIZ code into their websites and or apps, and consumers will be able to interact with the cognitive banner ads. The ad space will be traded manually, and all transactions will basically be recorded within the permission blockchain for internal auditing processes. The cognitive ad will be improved also from its version 0.1 form as well. And then as we move in, we have NOIZ version 1.1, which will basically release in the second quarter of 2019. this stage will actually be part of a closed beta round and will allow consumers to receive and collect tokens through a NOIZ wallet. And so the cognitive ad will again be further improved from its previous versions, and advertisers and publishers and consumers will all be able to audit the permissioned blockchain. Additionally, an algorithm will automatically label the content of publisher sites and advertisements for the purpose of properly matching ads with publishers' platforms. This will also be reinforced at this point by advertisers and publishers also having the ability to set criteria in regards to what companies they are willing to work with. And then as we move into the third quarter of 2019, we have version 1.2. And here ad space trading between advertisers and publishers will be done automatically in this version, and consumers will have the ability to control access to their personal data through decentralized applications. But also the community-based consensus system will also be set up to moderate advertisers and publishers. And then we have NOIZ version 2.0, which will be towards the latter end of next year. And here this will be the public beta phase. And here we'll also have the social impact organization will be included to be able to receive token rewards. And so the NOIZ addict change will also feature spam bot protection through runtime execution and passive monitoring, as well as the cognitive ad will also have new features available for advertisers which haven't quite been released yet. So we certainly have what I would say an 18-month roadmap before we see a fully end-to-end solution. But what we can certainly see is certainly significant portions of functionality being released in various quarters as we go along. So it's certainly not going to be a long wait to get everything, but we will be seeing improvements within the platform as we go along. Now moving on, let's actually have a look at the team, the advisors that are actually going to be responsible for really delivering this platform and ultimately supporting and promoting this platform for success. Now when we look at the actual founding team, it's interesting because the founding team also consists of partners as well. And this is pretty impressive because they're certainly not short on experience whatsoever. In fact, if we just kind of quickly briefly run through the core team, starting with the CEO, Andy An, he's basically the founder and CEO of NDN Group. And NDN Group is basically a digital conglomerate heavily invested in projects that ultimately pertain to mobile advertising networks, social networking, big data, artificial intelligence, and advertising technology. He is a serial entrepreneur and an angel investor and has founded and funded over 20 companies. So he's very well known within the business startup community for discovering and mentoring high potential entrepreneurs, and also has been actively involved in local and Silicon Valley incubators, so including Google 500 startups, founders institutions, enterprise organizations, and KPMG. So he certainly has a significant breadth of experience to be able to support this project. Equally, because he's so heavily connected within the digital space, you can already see partnerships that are already in place to be able to actually start using this platform and to even start using the base elements of this platform. If we then move over and have a look at Ricky Goswami, once again has over 18 years of digital marketing technology and product experience, and is proficient in 16 types of internet marketing disciplines, including e-commerce, UX-focused web design, data automation. He also has a blended background within AI and big data analytics, and also his internet marketing expertise consults on around 36,000 plus clients. So that includes About.com, Overstock.com, Log.inc. And so currently he's also the co-founder and CEO of Perini. So that is an AI chatbot company servicing a multitude of industries released to banking. Now, in addition to this, he's also the co-founder of Smarter Codes, a company developing AI for chatbots. Now this, just by reading the profiles of the founders and the partners within the team, you can already see that they are heavily engaged within this space. This is their background, this is their niche. And so they certainly know what they're doing. But more importantly, what I really like is that these are already, you can already see the partnerships forming here because they're already embedded within large organizations that ultimately utilize this type of technology. So you kind of see that it's going to be working off the bat. Then we've also got the Chief Strategy Officer, David Kang. So David is also a highly qualified market forecaster and coordinator, and he also has years of experience researching human behavior and psychology. So at this point, you can almost see where the NLP side of the actual cognitive ads and system is also coming in. And so once again, he's used these skills to develop successful IT startups, such as laws.com, which has also been valued at over 100 million US dollars by Thomson Reuters. And as you all know, we used to work for Reuters for around 7 years, and certainly I take their valuations very seriously. In addition, he's also participated in data processing programs at Stanford University. He's also fortified his quantitative analytics and marketing intelligence skills, which has pretty much expanded his expertise in predictive analytics and provided him with actionable outlooks in both marketing and finance. So for me, the actual team itself, the core team itself, are certainly very well accredited, very well versed, and have significant experience within this space. Then as we move on, we've also got Keith Chow, who's the Chief Operations Officer. And so Keith is tech-savvy engineer. Once again, he has more than 14 years of digital media marketing experience. He has managed over 10,000 digital campaigns for a variety of Fortune 500 companies. And he's also the co-founder of Hotmob, which is basically a success-driven individual. He is a success-driven individual. So Keith shows great passion for creative media and digital marketing concepts. And so once again, you're hearing all the partners' names being mentioned, because you've got Hotmob being mentioned as well. And these are really key words that we need to pull out when we're actually analyzing the core team and the founding team, because they are consisting of and made up of partners as well. So ultimately, they are going to be utilizing this platform, and they clearly have a significant reach into their own customer base. And then as we then also look at Keith Cheung, who's the Chief Research and Development Officer. So Keith, early adopter of Bitcoin from 2011, so certainly has been within the blockchain space for a long time. He's also continued to grow within this highly disruptive industry by becoming an expert in both blockchain and cryptocurrency. So they have that blockchain experience already within the team. He's also become a cryptocurrency entrepreneur, founding a number of Bitcoin businesses, and most recently launching a cryptocurrency mining box that uses solar energy. So certainly you can see where the technical expertise is also coming in at the core level. And then as we then wrap up with Adam Turner, who's the head of brand development. So Adam is the director of a business in the UK called Victual Consulting, and this basically specializes in helping fast-moving consumer good companies and small businesses. And so in addition to running his own consulting firm, Adam is also a partner at Refresh Industries, a company specializing in augmented and virtual reality. So ultimately, in his spare time, he heads up strategy and integration for Project Moses, a global social initiative aiming to help billions of people's lives with severe poverty and obtain universal basic income for living conditions. So once again, what I really like about this core team is that they're very well versed within their actual background. All of them have a key skill, a key background to bring in, and all of them are actually bringing in partners, because they are also members, if not CEOs, of other organizations which are ultimately going to utilize this platform. So for me, this is shouting out that they already have partners in the pipeline, they already have a use case for this platform, and once the actual platform's up and running, it's going to be a matter of just rolling out through their existing customer bases and using that channel in order to grow. Now, as we then move down and look at the rest of the actual remainder team, there is a number of individuals within the actual core team itself, and they all range from having skill sets within innovation. They've also had significant experience within those areas. They have experience within natural language processing, which, as you know, will be a key cornerstone within the cognitive ad space. In addition to that, they've also got business development directors to kind of help grow the business element side. They also have a marketing director to be able to promote and cross-promote the application and the actual solution itself. They've also got marketing technologists and multimedia managers, as well as creative UX and UI directors and designers. So they certainly have an all-round team, including sales. So I really like the look of this as a team as a whole, because it is a very large team, it is a very well-rounded team covering all bases that they need to, and more importantly, and I've said it a couple of times already, the actual founding team is an element that really excites me, because they are already connected within industry. They're already founding members of larger digital marketing agencies, and clearly this is what this is aimed at. So I certainly like the look of the team as well as the core team. When we look at the advisors, once again, it's a very list of impressive individuals. Whilst the names might not shout out to you, when you actually go through their resume, you certainly see their experience and wealth of information and knowledge that they're going to bring to the actual solution. So if we start with Alan Rutherford, who's the global chairman of Media Ubiquity. Now, once again, his practice ultimately focuses on client offerings, agency network relations, and industry collaborations. Alan also has an extensive 30-year career in media, advertising, and marketing. So once again, very well connected in this space, and certainly focusing on collaborations and networking. This is where doors are opened in order to form partnerships. Then as we move on, we've also got Luis Au, who's the founder and partner of Axis Business Consulting. So once again, Luis has over 2 decades years of experience, specifically at looking at digital marketing. And she's also currently a board member of several independent agencies in China and director of independent creative agency as well. So once again, very well connected within industry as well. And more importantly, this solution, their background is pretty much married up completely. Then as we move on, we've also got Nick Chan, who Nick is a technology lawyer. He's also a partner at Squire Patton Boggs, which is basically one of the top 10 most global law firms. And once again, he leads their technology, media, and telecommunications practice for Asia Pacific. And really, when you have these types of advisors involved that kind of have that type of head of department roles, and ultimately they're cross-selling services into other organizations, this is where advisors ultimately help cross-sell and cross-promote platforms that they're advising for as well. So, once again, it's that networking collaboration element. Then as we move on, we've also got Alvin Fo. Now, he's the managing director of IPG Reprise Media. Once again, very heavily linked back to media. More than 20 years plus of internet and mobile media experience in the Asia Pacific, with the last 12 years being spent in China. Now, in addition to that, he was also the head of mobile for Google China, and he also started his own technology business back in 1997, which ended up getting listed as a Fast 500 company in the APAC region for 3 consecutive years by Deloitte Touche Tohmatsu. So once again, the other key piece here is Alvin has also and is an advisor for ICOs such as Trade Hero, NoizChain, and Robin8. So certainly has that experience from an ICO perspective. And then as we then move on and look at Vincent Chin, he's the co-founder of XN Insight. And here Vincent is basically a machine learning and cryptocurrency specialist. So that's what I like to see. We're now getting the actual cryptocurrency and blockchain specialists coming in. And Vincent also has more than 10 years of experience in equities trading and foreign exchange. And so he's the principal of Lantern Light Analytics, a blockchain and data science consultancy, as well as a co-founder of XN Insight, a proprietary trading firm that uses social data to drive long-term alpha. So once again, very well-rounded background, very great academic background as well, and has blockchain and cryptocurrency experience. So the advisor list, certainly, whilst it looks quite small, each of these individuals bring a wealth of experience either within cryptocurrency, either within the ICO stages, and most importantly, all of them seem to have a strong connection with media, marketing, and technology. So I certainly like the look of the advisors overall. Looking at the token metrics, what the ambition here, or the goal here, is to have a 15,000 Ethereum soft cap and a hard cap of 60,000 Ethereum, which roughly puts it at around 40 million USD. So for me, that does seem slightly on the high side for projects, but what I am also seeing more and more is actually projects are slowly beginning to increase their hard cap with the bearish market that we're currently seeing as well. So certainly I think there seems to be some sort of correlation there, but that's just my opinion. Now, in terms of the actual split between the actual token metrics, what we have here is around a total of 300 million NOIZ tokens which will be issued, and it seems to be coming in at around a price of 25 cents per token. Now, in terms of the actual split, the early adopter token sale takes around 30 million, so about 10% of the tokens will be distributed at that point. Then we've also got another 75 million, so 25% of the tokens will be available to registered individuals during the NOIZ token pre-sale. And then a further 75 million tokens will be distributed during the actual token sale or the crowd sale. Now, the other part that I quite like is also 2% will be airdropped to early adopters and community members, so that's around another 6 million tokens. And then we've got another 8% set aside for the advisors. And then lastly, we've got another 30 million, that's 10%, reserved for charitable donations. And I quite like the sound of that as well, because there clearly is a very heavy presence on corporate social responsibility here, which I do like the sound of. And then as we also look, the foundation participating in the actual platform, so the founding members, so that will be the 60 million tokens that are left, which will be 20%, will be distributed amongst the founding team members. Now I am aware that there is a lockup, but I'm not quite sure exactly how long that lockup is, so it'd be good to find that out. So that's what we have in terms of token metrics. So looking at the actual hype, clearly I've stumbled upon this project a tad early, but they do have a number of social presences. So if we have a look, we've got Telegram with around 71 members. We've also got a Facebook page. They also have a Twitter handle with around 22 followers. There's also a LinkedIn page and a Reddit subpage. So certainly they're looking to clearly populate these social destinations, and I suspect this will just happen over time. But more importantly, I suspect as the founders and the sort of founding partners within the overall team start really looking to market this particular solution, I suspect we will see an influx, certainly of those who are interested within that space moving in. Now moving on to my final thought. So in terms of my final thoughts, the project itself, I've given it a 3.5, and the main reason really is, even though NOIZ is the first community consensus powered advertising blockchain where ultimately the community has the power to vote out bad advertisers, so you know, your gun companies or companies with bad ethics, equally they can also vote out publishers, so those who are basically involved in fake news or stolen content. So I certainly like the sound of that. The other element that I really like about it is actually NOIZ uses two blockchains, so it uses Ethereum and Hyperledger, and I think that's quite unique in its stance. So while Ethereum is ultimately used to facilitate the peer-to-peer advertising contracts, and that's ultimately where the smart contracts exist on Ethereum only, along with the NOIZ tokens, which will be used for the transaction. And then you've got the Hyperledger element, which basically enables the quality control over the advertisers and the publishers, and ultimately enables the corporate social responsibility activities that we have given with their advertising budgets. But to kind of give you an idea of what your potential returns could be, if we look at a couple of competitors, although they're not direct competitors, they are within the advertising space. So we've got Basic Attention Token, and this is currently floating at around a market cap of around 500 million. So if we go by the 40 million hard cap, then you can certainly tell that if the checkboxes are hit, the milestones are reached, and certainly the team itself is very well connected within industry, and they get the push and the pull from industry, then you do have an opportunity here where potentially it can times your investment or go beyond that. Equally, if we kind of look on the other end of the scale, we also do have AdX, which is similar within the actual advertising space, and they're floating at around a £77 million market cap. So at the bottom end of the scale, you could potentially double your investment. So you know, there's a large scale to go through, but what these guys are doing is unique. They're using cognitive ad. Prototype, I've given it a 2.5. In fact, when you go to their homepage and click on the actual intro video, what you'll see there in the background playing behind me is actually Nicola in action. So they've already started building this prototype in its first stage. So I certainly like the look of that. And the next element here that they need to ultimately merge together is Ethereum and Hyperledger extension to be able to create that one solution in one place. So for me, I certainly like the look of that, and clearly it shows that the team know and they have the capabilities to be able to deliver. Now if we then move back and have a look at the team I've given it a 4, and here's the reason why. Andy, thank you so much for joining me, and I really appreciate the time that you've taken to kind of take us through your project. Now, as you know, I've sort of been doing quite a few reviews on various ICOs, and I'd come across your particular ICO of interest because it does sort of relate back to what I do for my clients within the UK. And one of the things that I found really interesting, specifically when I was doing the team review, and it was a fairly in-depth one, is it seems that your actual team happens to be made up of CEOs and founders of other organizations. So what I was hoping was, you know, first of all, would you kindly introduce yourself and just let the viewers know a little bit about your background, because clearly it seems like you're quite a superstar in your local regions. And more importantly, I would love to know exactly how this sort of partnership that you have of founders and companies within the overall team actually works, and what the plans are for that, because clearly it sounds like you've already got somewhere to start shipping your product. So Andy, over to you if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, thank you. So a little bit background about myself. I have been in the industry in the past 16 years. My first job was actually with WPP Group, one of the largest advertising conglomerate in the world, under an advertising company called Ogilvy and Mayfair. And I left the company after working there for 2 months and started on my own entrepreneurship journey. And I started my company based in digital. So that is 2002. So we just celebrated our 16th anniversary. And along the way, what we have done, we are sort of the first company to come up with digital out of home, helping advertisers and brands to expose in outdoor locations such as fast food chain, restaurants and bars, and our partners including McDonald's, including a lot of retailers that many brands they consider, sort of a new millennial lifestyle network rather than, staying at home and watching TV. So that was the early beginning, how we started our business. And later on, we implemented a Wi-Fi network that we have the entire city covered with wireless hotspots, because the reason was basically by having digital display, we need the Wi-Fi network to upload our contents. So that was the first stage of our business. And then in 2007, we are sort of the pioneer to start a mobile ad network. It was way before the smartphone came out. It was in the old days where we have these ringback tones and SMS, if you still remember, So that was how we started our mobile advertising network. And then when the iPhone came out and Android, so we plugged in all our SDKs into different publishers. So we have ramped up from a bootstrap company, ran up to 260 publishers. And we built our ad network with over 40 billion impressions up to date. And then we also moved into social media, big data analytics, as well as chatbot solutions recently. So for NOIZ, it's basically you're right. We have come together, put together a few of our bootstrapped companies, including Hotmob, which is a mobile advertising network, Perini, which is a AI natural language processing company, and also NDN that we built chatbots. And by combining, all the talents in the team that we have been serving a lot of brands and clients in the past many years, we have realized there's a problem in the market, which is, as you might already know, most of the advertising banners, you won't click it, I won't click it. It's, a lot of them are clicked by click farms or bots, and that's why we came up with the idea to solve the problem in the market and ensure that the clients, they can actually engage with a real customer instead of burning out all the advertising dollars. And we see that it's disappointing that no one is tackling the issue, and many of the conversion rates used to be 1-2%, and now it's like maybe sometimes down to 0.05% conversion rate, and that's very depressing for the industry. So we all come together. We have the expertise in AI and chatbots, in natural language processing, and we put a talented team together. So this is how we manage my companies and partners, and it's a very strong team.
And it's interesting you say that. So I mean, you've got these three partners sort of coming together, and we've got NoizChain as a birth of those three sort of, I wouldn't say merging, but working in partnership, and those partnerships are still operating independently as well today.
Yes.
And
yes.
So
yes.
It almost feels like that you may well be leveraging those partners in order to ultimately push your solution out. Is that a fair conclusion to make?
Exactly. So when we launch our new solution, we already have all the distribution channels. We have the technology ready. We have the industry problems that we hear from our clients from day to day, their frustrations. So I think it is important for the community to know that we're not coming up with something from scratch, or just having a concept to dump into the market. We see the demand, we have the leads coming in, and we have requests from the market as well. So I think that is the pros and cons of we are to balance. I think this is more of a positive side by having existing clients, existing distribution channel, existing technology that we are putting all together. Sorry, I missed your voice.
So when we talk about existing clients, what are we talking about in terms of numbers? Those who are going to be able to use your solution once it's ready.
Existing network, running about 408 on our own network a year, and so these are the clients that we are reaching out, and as well as the publishers. We have 260 publishers that it's ready for us to reach out as well.
And then as we sort of go forward and look sort of in terms of the next steps, what are your next steps in terms of really rolling out the project further? So when can we expect the next sort of testnet coming out so viewers, subscribers can actually see your platform in play?
All right. So immediately, already having clients that will testing out because of that. So the first phase would be purely on the advertising with the cognitive AI. And the next phase, what we will be doing is actually hashing the entire conversation into a blockchain, which will be running on Hyperledger, and then by issuing tokens. So I'll give you an example. If it is hotel banner ad, you can now not only click on the hotel banner ad, but you can type in and say, I would like to book your hotel from 24th to 26th. And immediately within the banner ad, it replies to you and say, okay, that's great. We have standard rooms and deluxe room. Which one would you like? Say if you picked deluxe, and then we'll say, it's $400 per night. Would you like to confirm? By confirming, the AI would start to ask you, what's your first name? And then by giving your first name, your last name, your mobile, it's all up to you. You can totally ignore the conversation, but if you start to provide the data, we'll reward you with the NOIZ token. And with the NOIZ token, you can always go back to the brand and redeem it. You can keep it in your wallet, your mobile wallet. And that is how we are, by phrases, we are putting in from cognitive ad, putting into a blockchain, ramping up into your crypto wallet. And this is how we are, adding more and more functionalities that the brands and clients and publishers, we are adding value to all parties. So it's not only one party. It's not only the user. User, you get a control. You get incentives. For advertiser, they can engage with the customer directly. They know it's a real person. It's not a bot. For publishers, they get transparency of the traffic. It's not click farms or bots coming in. So these are all the solutions that we're all putting together. And with the AI, we can identify if you say I want to book or I want to purchase the room versus to I want to inquire. And these words will identify and provide a different level of engagement. So if you say, I want to book or I want to purchase, I'll give you the highest engagement level and give you more tokens. Versus if you're only searching or inquiring, then I'll give you less tokens. So that is how we are working along with the technology side.
So, I mean, I really like what I'm hearing. And maybe I'm being a bit biased because I am also from a digital marketing background in the same field. So I can see it completely, and certainly what really shouts out to me is that it's just beyond digital marketing, because clearly with bringing in Perini with the AI technology, that piece there, you're also really taking that solution the next level up, and it becomes more of a two-way interaction rather than just looking at banner ads. So really impressed with that overall. So I mean, thank you so much, Andy, for really taking us through a quick snapshot in terms of your background, in terms of the partners, because I was really curious and I wanted to get the message out to the viewers more than anything else as to how big these three organizations are, because maybe outside of Asia, people may not know. I certainly wasn't aware, but obviously within Asia, you are very large organizations and certainly leading in those spaces. So thank you very much. And, you know, I think my last request would be is when you do have your actual testnet up and running, I would love to have another interview with you where, you know, personally you could take us through the actual platform of it working in practice. I mean, that would be really good as well. Great.
Definitely.
Well, thank you very much, Andy, for your time. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you.
So I hope you enjoyed that little snippet with Andy and kind of going through the actual team, the partnerships and the plans that they have. And that certainly excited me because it really showed that they have the drive, the determination and the links back in industry to be able to push this platform forward. And then moving on, we've gone on to the advisors. I've given them a 3.5. They're all very well versed within their relevant niches. They're all from a media background, so clearly they're going to be able to open doors for them. They also have ICO experts within place. For the token metrics, I've given that a 2.5. For me, it does seem slightly on the higher end for the actual hard cap, but I am also seeing much more higher hard caps going forward now that we're going into the bullish phase. What I do like is the low coin supply, but also more importantly, what really appeals to me here is the token burn that they have, where they will buy back 10% every year until they sort of reduce it down to a certain figure, which always has a positive impact on the price. And then for the awareness, I've given it a 1. It's not a negative in any way, it's just that it is very early stages for this particular ICO, and so certainly they haven't drawn in the hype here which they need. Thank you for taking the time to go through the review. If this is your first time here, don't forget to subscribe. If you are a returning visitor, then don't forget to smash that like button, and I'll see you in the next episode.